Killer.
All right, cool. So today we have Jason Gourd over here, a barber and barbershop owner and clothing brand owner. So Jason Gourd is the owner of Sorek, an upscale barbershop in Austin, Texas that has a unique twist. It also sells high-end men's suits. So generally the only way a barbershop can make money is by cutting hair, right? For the most part. But you have built a fashion brand around a barbershop that has far higher potential than the barbershop itself. So that's what we wanted to talk to you today about. So thanks for being here, Jason.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Just, for us, it's really fun being a part of the Austin community. It's fun having people like you pulling together these sort of podcasts. And so I'm really excited to be here.
Nice. So I would just basically want to pick your brain about the barbershop world because I find it fascinating. It kind of reminds me of like the hip hop world a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like barbers are like braggadocious. And
very
like,
much so.
I follow all these like Twitter barber accounts.
Yeah.
And there's this like hip hop rap element to it, which is kind of funny. And in general, I've also noticed the barber world is often really low tech.
Definitely.
It's like dudes are like texting each other like, hey, what time do you want to come back? It's like, I got 9 a.m. open. You've gone the high tech route all the way.
Yeah.
How much effort does that save in administration in the first place?
So it saves a lot of effort, but in a funny way, there's a little bit of a learning curve and an uphill battle on the front end because as you were mentioning with barbers, they get very used to allowing their customers to text them, allowing their customers they're very accessible in that regard. So as you're staffing and as you have this great team of barbers, you have to get them comfortable with the idea that, okay, everything's taken care of. Mm-hmm. Because with our systems, it's hugely beneficial to the barbers because everything's taken care of. Text message, reminders, email reminders, even the booking online itself, the customers can do it all themselves, but the barbers have to change their way of working, their mindset to allow us to utilize that technology at the full capacity, right? So I have to show the barbers like, hey, if somebody's trying to text you, send them the link. Uh-huh. Don't say, oh, I got you, and then put in that work because you're teaching them bad habits, right? So for us, it's a little bit of a learning curve because it's new. That being said, once they do get the hang of it, it's an amazing workflow because now my barbers are able to come into work and cut hair at the best of their ability, give the customers a great experience, and go home. There's no more of the, text at midnight or 11 p.m. while they're at the bars going, hey, you think you could get me an appointment tomorrow morning? You know what I mean? It's like, send them the link. They'll use it. Yeah.
I said, like in the digital world, I used to do this with like consulting.
Yeah.
Where people would be like, hey, are these 4 times good? I'm like, no. How about these 4 times?
Exactly.
I was like, I spent more time just scheduling the damn thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. It's very much a funny thing to navigate because a lot of people get so worried about, not pandering to their clients on waiting on them hand and foot, right? So it's like getting them comfortable with the idea that everything's taken care of. Your customers will be happy to use the online booking tool. Those sort of things are very important, very important.
So is it like, is it the customers that always want to text or is it the barbers or?
I think that it's the customers that initiate a lot of that relationship after the barber has created that opening, right? So if you get my number or you follow me on Instagram, which is a huge part of our business, Instagram's massive. Once you have that accessibility to a barber, now you think, oh, well, he'll just book it for me. Yeah. Whereas the reality is, no, that's not. My favorite is if I'm in the shop, I'm booked. I'm literally cutting hair. There's no opening for me to say, oh, 1 second, let me check my phone so I can book these appointments. Like that's not a possibility. Yeah. So, a lot of it's the customer's accessibility to barbers and getting my barbers comfortable with send them the link. Say, hey, you can book it right here, as opposed to, oh, let me check on that for you. That's not necessary.
Now, related, how many people like call the store on a daily basis?
It's really funny you asked that because that was one of my big assumptions coming into this industry coming into opening Sorek was, okay, maybe we don't even have a phone. I thought, what a world, right? Where you could just not even have a phone. Definitely you need a phone. For some reason, I think it's the going on Google, you search a barbershop or a clothing store, you click either their website, which takes you to the homepage, or you click their phone number, which calls it immediately. Mm-hmm. That's the differentiator that causes people to call way more than you'd expect. It's because as they're Googling, they go, oh, perfect, Sorek, this looks really cool, call. Whereas the booking tool is on the website, click book now. So it's the degrees of separation, in terms of.
Is it mainly like first time people calling?
Very I wish.
So people call like constantly to book their appointments?
A lot of people call, man.
Instead of the
web tool.
Interesting.
Which you've used it. It's super easy.
I would prefer to use it.
Yeah. And you choose the time. There's no, let me look at the, what day are you thinking? You make all those decisions.
It's like, which guy do you want? And like, if you're talking to a person, it's like, I don't want this guy. I want that guy. Like,
it's the whole thing is very funny in that regard. It's you'd expect people to be very inclined to use the online booking tool. And they do. And it is something where once my customers have used it, they love it. But I think another thing is by calling, I think some customers feel like they can get a little bit of, maybe flexibility, like, oh, I didn't see the times that I wanted. Let me call them. And it's a weird relationship, but
where I've noticed this. So we do a lot of consulting with companies in the medical field. Really? Calling is the biggest in the medical field. There's something about like having a doctor or medical procedure. You want to know like there's someone there.
I think that's part of it, but I'm surprised how many doctors don't have online booking available.
Well, I've worked with these clients. They have the same thing as you. More people will rather call.
Really?
I don't know.
That's so weird. Because for me,
it is.
I was just trying to book a doctor's appointment the other day. I go online. I'm thinking, perfect. Because another thing is if it's a Saturday, I can't call the office. They're not there. So having an online booking tool is great because boom, done. Not available. So I guess maybe, I think there's also a little bit of an old school mentality because they still have, the full on receptionists and all that stuff.
Dude, just
handling
legacy stuff is so powerful. Like, it's like, why are you doing this? It's like, because we did it last year.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Exactly.
I think that's
because I would have to change everything.
Yeah.
It's that they have it in their mind that is such a hurdle to get over that, why even bother with that? We're booked, we're busy, we're done.
But I've seen newer specialty things, kind of like gyms and stuff like that. Yeah. Most of those will go full, only like, don't call us, don't talk to us. Exactly. Sorry, like if you want that, you just can't.
One of my friends' gyms in town, they had no reception. Like the trainers would be running the classes and they had an online phone, but it wasn't like a Google Voice number or something like that, but everything was all handled online.
Okay, so I've talked to so many barbers about this, and the low tech factor of most barbershops probably contributes to this, but because they had no idea what I was talking about. Subscription haircuts. Yeah. Why can't you put someone on a subscription for a haircut? Like, let's say, so when I was doing like a tight fade, I liked it, but I got to go in like every week to keep that thing tight. Yeah. And I was like, that's a lot of scheduling even through the web tool. Like, I got to like come all the time. I just rather have like a thing that it automatically sets it and like puts it in a calendar. Yeah. Is that not a thing?
Why? So what I do with Sorek is we'll set, a reoccurring appointment easily. The problem with subscriptions in our space specifically, because I consider we're in the luxury men's grooming space, a little bit more elevated than what you'd find in a neighborhood barbershop from an experience and a skill level. That's a very, there's a differentiator there. You've got your sports clips, you've got your smaller neighborhood barbershops, then you have Sorek. My friend's shop, Shed in town, is another great example. All of these where we're very much craft, similar with a coffee shop. You can go to Starbucks or you can go to, Cuvée, that sort of thing. So I find that the difference there is our focus on craft means we also have to hire people that want careers, not gig work. And what that means is our pay structure, as opposed to just doing an hourly pay structure, we're a commission pay structure, and we're paying those barbers out for every haircut. The problem with the subscription is let's say you come in and you're like, man, I loved seeing Dean. He did a great job. That's my guy. And you buy into a subscription. And you're expecting to come in as much as you want to get a haircut. And you go to book on a Thursday and Dean's booked up. But you've already paid for your haircuts. Mm-hmm. It causes this friction where the customers are going, I paid for it. I need it today. Mm-hmm. Where's my haircut? The problem is, okay, we can say, well, Jason's available. Okay, but that's not my guy. And also, we've already paid out, commission, right? So if you pay it up front, then we're paying out commission on that sale. Where does the commission go? To which barber? To who and what? Where? You know what I mean? So it's
interesting.
It's the pay structure that causes.
Because I wanted to pay for Dean, but I got you, and I'm like, well, yeah, I didn't get what I want.
That
you're getting money that he's supposed to get. Okay, got it.
And it affects the customer experience and the internal logistics with the business. It's a funny little thing to solve. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always thought, because like in the software world, you have like subscriptions, like, Netflix or anything like that, where it's just like, it just dings you that money and you're like, okay, I took it. I got my service.
And it is something I'm working on figuring out with our software company. Mm-hmm. The problem is, just the dollars and cents and where they go, right? So that's really the only issue. I think that subscriptions are great from a revenue standpoint. The liquidity is the most important thing, right? So if I can get all of your business up front, even at a discount, I know I've got your business, right? It's in the bank. So there's a huge value there that we're trying to navigate, value to the customer and value for our business, but it's on its way. I think subscriptions for the luxury space are coming sooner than later.
Also, if it's self-managed through the web portal, that'd be great. Like if I want to come to you every week and I book a time and it schedules it, and then like I could say like in 24 hours in advance, like I can't be here or whatever.
Exactly.
And then you don't get dinged. I don't get dinged.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, 100%. And I think that it's on its way for sure. For sure.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So let's talk about just starting a barbershop. Pros and cons. My world is like all the online stuff. Yeah. So all us losers have like no storefronts unless it's an office. You've got like a storefront and everything. What's appealing about starting a barbershop?
So, it's funny because the grass is always greener, right? There's so much interest I have in your space and vice versa, I can tell. But with Sorek specifically, there's what I love about barbering is obviously the community you build. The relationships you have with customers. It's a very intimate experience where you're not just getting to learn about, you think about our clothing brand. For our clothing, if I was just a clothing store, you come in, I get to provide some cool clothes and I get to dress you up. But that experience is very limited. With barbering, it's intimate. We actually are with our clients for 45 minutes to an hour. Some clients, maybe even more if they're getting more services. Having conversations more than just once a month, but twice a month. Those relationships are really, really important to me. And that I think is what made me fall in love with barbering. When it comes to the appeal of a barber shop, I think the real appeal would be that you've got so much foot traffic. From a business model perspective, it's guaranteed business. For a peripheral retail concept, right? Because barbering as it is, if you're paying great commission, it's very low margin. The business is a great experience. You can make amazing money as a barber, but as a barber shop only, you're missing a lot of margin because the haircuts themselves, you're paying out a commission. Hair product as it exists today costs very little and lasts 6 months for guys. So there's not a huge opportunity for margin. There's not a lot of stuff in there that you can sell and make a great buck. But that's where this evolution, and you'll see it a lot more now, of barbershops paired with retail concepts came about. Because now you've got a constant flow of traffic. You have an intimate relationship with those customers to understand what they need, and you can provide awesome retail experience. For me, that's having Sorek menswear, having anything from casual wear all the way to, as you mentioned, some tailored clothing as well. It's fun being able to create that holistic experience.
Well, let's just jump straight to that. That was one of the main things that attracted me to like your style. I was just like, because I went in for a haircut, because it's like literally 3 or 4 blocks away from here, and I was just like, I thought it was like maybe a suit store because it says barbershop plus clothing, and the first time I got a haircut by you, actually, don't judge this. But I got a haircut and I was just curious, and I was talking to you about it, and I was like, well, I'm assuming you make a lot more money with the barbershop than the clothing brand. And you were like, yeah, but we sell $700 jackets. Like, how many heads of hair do you have to cut? So by my estimation, it's something like you have to cut like 18, 20 heads of hair to make that much revenue and profit. I'm sure the jacket's probably more.
The difference is you've got one person handling a retail experience, right? So with our menswear brand, Sorek, we have ready-to-wear collections that we do throughout the year. And that's everything from casual wear, like what I'm wearing, all the way to some tailored pieces. And those expressions create a great, right now shopping experience. But we also have Sorek Custom, and that's where we are able to do made-to-measure styles for the customer. So if you're a medium or a kind of large, or, we could actually get it made for you, right? So the difference is that whole experience is handled by one person that could sell a whole closet. We have a lot of customers that come in, especially because of our made-to-measure experience, that want to just a refresh for their whole wardrobe, especially after the pandemic.
What's the high end they're dropping on that?
You're dealing with probably $5,000.
So more than a haircut,
yeah. But and that's one person. It's not like it's 4 people throughout the day, and that one person gets paid out a commission off of that. But it's totally different. It's totally different. So
damn.
Yeah. It's the conversion is really, really fun and really unique in terms of the brick and mortar experience.
And why did you think like the clothing thing would be a good match for barber? Like, what was going on in your head when you're like, I'm gonna do a barber and suits? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. So, for us, it was about finding an experience or creating an experience. That's the bottom line, right? So it was, there's this idea that I want to open a barbershop. I really love this industry. But if I add anything to it, I don't want it to feel like we're just peddling product, right? Mm-hmm. So how do I create an experience that really parallels the barber experience from a retail standpoint? And I thought, what better way than to create a tailored experience from clothing to men's grooming? So having the utility of being able to do made to measure means that I can make sure our clothing fits you specifically the way it needs to, just like I would tailor a haircut to your head shape and all of that. So it was really about finding a way to add to the experience and not just have a bunch of stuff. Then you'll find a lot of barbershops will try and increase their retail revenue by just having almost like a merch store in the front. It's like they're a band.
I've definitely seen that.
Yeah. So, and that's fun. It's great. The community can support it, and it's a huge marketing tool. I mean, you're going to the gym and you see a bunch of guys wearing shirts from all sorts of different stores and brands and whatever. But for us, I wanted it to really be a tailored experience. And you mentioned suits. It's funny because suits was a selling jackets to trousers was a big foundation of what we did, because in the made to measure space, that's all of our manufacturers. That was what their bread and butter was. Mm-hmm. But what we've done is we've actually done a bunch of R&D to be able to not just provide suits, but we provide everything from, casual wear, some more kind of fun bohemian styles, Americana styles, all the way to, your Napoli inspired jacketing. So it's fun being able to be a full, well-rounded clothing brand and still be able to provide it made to measure.
That's awesome. So how do you also, I'm trying to think, how do you also sell clothes? I remember thinking, we were talking about this, the first haircut. Yeah. And I was like, is he going to try to sell me a jacket? Is he going to be like having a razor to my neck and be like, dude, you should buy a jacket? Like, what's the process? Like, are you, I don't know if you're like trying to sell, like a good salesman, like you never know that it's happening.
No.
But like, what's that process like?
So I think the best way to describe that would be how I onboard barbers and how I represent that experience to the barbers. Because you can imagine the barbers are having a similar conversation with me where they're going, so do you want me to sell clothes? Yeah. So because of that, let me kind of explain that. What I tell them is I want everyone to understand what Sorek is, right? I want everyone to know what we do, but that doesn't mean saying, oh man, you should really try on this shirt, or oh, you would look great in that. You can, that's a part of it, but it's really being able to describe who we are. And what that is, somebody's like, wow, so you guys sell clothes. Well, what we explain to them is, yeah, so we're obviously a barbershop, but we're also a menswear brand. And we provide ready-to-wear collections throughout the year, along with Sorek Custom, where you can get select styles made to measure. That's what we do. So that opens the door for the customer to understand who we are, what we do, what Sorek is about. And as they're checking out, there's a whole store for them to look through. For us, another focus was making sure the experience is holistic from a physical standpoint. So when you're in the store, you can tell it's all encompassing, right? It's not a barbershop and then you walk over here and there's a clothing store. It's very much all together.
Yeah. So like, okay, so let's do a little role play here. So you're cutting my hair and I'm like, you explain the whole Sorek thing. Yeah. Kind of, I'm just like, oh, what's the clothes? You're just talking about that.
Yeah.
And then what happens is the customer usually like, well, what do you think about this? Like,
the customer's got a cape on them. So there's not a lot of clothing conversations at that point. From there, my brother owns the business with me, Jared. Mm-hmm. He handles the majority of our clothing. So for me, it's, whenever we're done, I'll have Jared show you around. There's a lot of really sick products. I think you'll love them. It's really the TO, the turnover is the most crucial part of that conversion. It's making sure that handover is smooth. You get the customer excited, but it's for a conversation for a later time. You know what I mean? We're not going to be talking about your size. But, I've had that happen where I'm like, oh, they're like, I love that shirt. Oh, what size are you? A medium. Hey, Jared, can you grab a couple mediums, in the different colors? So
like mid haircut. And they're like,
yeah. And that's also because owning the business and operating right now, it's a blast, but it also makes me so much more comfortable to have those conversations because I understand all of it really well. But I don't expect, any of our barbers to have that conversation.
Well, I've never because I overhear the other barbers' conversation. I don't think I've ever heard once them talk about like clothing. I've seen a lot of haircuts that don't even broach the subject whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I guess you get someone back like 10 times or more on average.
And that's where that intimate relationship, that community you build is so fun for the retail experience because we're able to slowly tailor. And you talk about wanting a case study with a business. We've got the best case study in the world for men. We have them coming in all day long, looking at clothing. I love that. I don't like that. I kind of like that all day long. So for me, it goes, as a retail brand, you're thinking, well, they're answering all of my questions for me. Whereas with e-commerce, it's a lot of what are my returns? What am I getting here? What am I getting there?
You know what's really interesting about this? In my world, we generally don't know who the customer is because they don't live in the same country. We don't see their face. We don't see anything, right? We just, we get their money and maybe a name or something. Yeah. And the funny thing is you intimately know your target customer.
Very much so.
Yeah, because you talk to them for 30 minutes, every 2 weeks or something like that.
I know their wives, their girlfriends,
Yeah, that's amazing. This is the total opposite in our world. We have to like go out and figure out who is buying this stuff?
So for you guys, it's very much we're dealing with the chicken before the egg conversation, right? And I think there's value in both. For you guys, you understand, a distribution model, all these different things that for me are kind of next steps, where getting the retail brand available in every state, getting it, all this sort of stuff. Whereas from an e-commerce standpoint, that's first. It's like, how do I get this to people? How do I get it to the customer? Whereas for us, it's one store in one city. How do we take care of these people better than anyone else?
Yeah.
and you know who those people are. You know,
I should start cutting my customers' hair or something like that. Just get to know them.
yeah.
So what's like a rough revenue split between like clothing and barber services? Like I was sitting in your chair one day and I was like, I bet you make way more money on barbering. And you were like, no, it's like the other way around.
Yeah, very much so. I'd say right now, and bearing in mind, August 4th, today's what, the 7th?
Mm-hmm.
So 3 days ago was our 1 year.
And you
business.
kind of the pandemic, all that kind of stuff happened.
So 1 year in business, it's how do I explain? I'd say we've got a pretty close to 50-50 split.
Mm-hmm.
But that's 1 year in business with the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And now the city's finally opening up. The retail, we're seeing a very strong upward trend. Just as with barbering, but it's very easy for the retail side of our business to just start skyrocketing because it's so much more revenue per customer.
Well, I mean, that was one of the things I thought. I was just like, your brand could scale.
Yeah.
Your barbershop can scale to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But there are definite limits to the sky.
Way
on that one.
bigger. And that's another really important differentiator to what I see the barber, I'll call it the barber experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think the barber experience is a part of our brand, not what we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't see barbering in, 10 years from now. I think it's going to be a part of an experience for brands. It's a great career. You can make amazing money as a barber, but in terms of just a barber shop, it's so low margin, and your real estate in this town gets so much more expensive that it just makes sense making it a part of something. So for us, barbering is a way for us to further service our customers.
That's awesome. One of our other buddies, Eric Bandholz, who runs a beard brand out of Austin. Yeah.
Great
They
guy.
made a barbershop too, which he was just like, and he was talking about it years ago because they wanted to record videos of haircuts.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I don't know if we'll make money with this barbershop, but we'll use it as a studio.
Exactly.
So it's kind of funny. So the barbers make money, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they actually even turn a profit on that. They might turn some profit, but then compared to what they do with the business brand, it pales in comparison.
And I'm speaking a lot of this from the perspective of Texas as well, which is our market in terms of barbering is, I'd say, middle price point. You go to LA, you go to New York, that's where you're dealing with, here, I'd say $40 to $50 is premium. In LA, it's like 90.
Mm-hmm.
So there's growth here that could change a lot of our conversation, right? There's a lot of space with demographics changing, the city becoming more affluent, all those things. I think as the city grows, we could be having a very different conversation. I could be telling you, well, wow, shit, this is great.
Well, that stretch of East 6 that you're on.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lived in Austin for 20 years and you didn't step foot in this part of town.
No,
like
not at all. Not at all.
It was bad.
Exactly.
And now buying a house here, walking around at night, you're just like, wow, what a
Now
what
we're
a
doing
change.
a podcast.
Yeah. So funny. Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about local business reviews. I mean, whenever we're talking to local businesses, whenever we consult for them stuff, the thing I always recommend, I'm just like, just get a bunch of reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, don't even focus on anything else right now. I mean, of course, do your business good. So getting local business reviews, let's talk about that. So you have something like 88 5-star Google reviews. That's just Google.
Yeah.
That's a lot for a pretty new barbershop.
Yeah.
How important are reviews to your business?
It's been really fun seeing and learning how important they really are, because as we've had our conversations, I've had a couple other friends reinforce the importance of reviews. We don't spend a dime on ads right now. No marketing spend, nothing, but just focusing on reviews. Thankfully, we have a huge amount of unprompted reviews that are like essays. The more we've grown our reviews on Google, it's been amazing how many more people come in, as opposed to just saying, oh, I walked by yesterday, I saw it, I wanted to come check it out, which is great. Mm-hmm. Now it's way more people saying, oh, I looked up Barbershop on Google and I found you guys, which is wonderful. And the reviews have definitely positioned us in a much better way from an SEO standpoint.
The reason I like asking someone like you is because like it's difficult to track.
Yeah.
So people are like, well, is there like evidence that it brings in more people? It's just like, I think that's just how people search businesses.
It is.
Like they search on their phone. Google's smart enough to know where you are, and it shows you.
Google, I think, from an SEO standpoint, to what you're saying, positions you higher too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do y'all? I mean, I'm assuming you do the whole thing. Like, did you know about local reviews before? Or did you have to learn it? Like, where did that come from? You've done a good job at it.
I used to manage salons as well. I've been in the brick and mortar space for a long time, so you get comfortable asking. Right, which is a funny proposition, but if you're able to create some level of empathy in the sense of, if I have a customer that's having a wonderful experience, I'll ask something to the extent of, thank you so much for coming in. If you wouldn't mind leaving us a Google review, it's like gold for us right now. Being a new business helps out with that immensely. So I'd say that it's a little bit of having a lot of experience being in brick and mortars, but also patronizing a lot of businesses. If you've been to a lot of businesses, you start learning the flow of how to ask for a review, how important are reviews. I think you learn that with how people complain about bad reviews.
Well, I've talked to restaurant owners, and especially old school ones that have been doing restaurants for the past 20 plus years when Yelp and stuff wasn't a thing. And man, it is such an adversarial relationship with Yelp. They hate Yelp.
Yeah.
And
Yelp is
I try to reframe their mind a little bit by like, I know it's sort of extortion. Maybe it is extortion. It's extortion.
Completely.
It's extortion. Let's just say
it is completely extortion.
It is extortion. They make you pay to remove bad reviews. And someone's just like, oh, they didn't have a high chair. And you're like,
sorry.
Okay. I mean, that's not like a 1-star reason. Or they're just like, there was a lot of traffic. And you're like, how is that my fault?
Yeah, exactly.
And that shows up and that dings you, right? If reviews are that important, you got a 3.5 versus a 5 now because there's one asshole. That sucks.
Completely.
So how do you navigate that? Like, were you always warm to reviews, or do you have like a kind of love-hate with them? Or
I definitely have a love-hate. Yelp, as you're saying, there's a reason we have 88 Google reviews and maybe 3 Yelp reviews.
Are Yelp people meaner?
No, it's because I don't tell people to go on Yelp.
That's true.
I mean, the number of calls I get, it costs $1 a day to have your logo on Yelp. Just to have your logo.
But does it bring in more than $1 a day in business?
I wouldn't know. I'm not going to pander to that right now. I think there's value, obviously, in their platform. But Google, we're getting results, right? I think that with Yelp, I might be biting the bullet soon. I'm not certain. But it's not a different customer. It's just, for us as a business, it's a very uncomfortable relationship to have with, a service that I'm paying for, but also could be hugely beneficial or hugely detrimental to my business. That exposure and that, how do I explain that exposure to the customer, but that vulnerability is a very precarious thing. It's very weird to navigate because you're kind of on edge. Let's say a customer comes in and they're not very decisive, or they're not certain of what they want. Now, as a business, with reviews being a thing, the way that at the level that they are, you're in a weird position where it's like, this guy has no idea what he wants. Hopefully we're giving him, like you navigate it through the consultation, but some guys, they're just like, yep, let's go, let's do it. And you're like, all right, this should be great. I think you're going to love it.
Like maybe like Brad Pitt, and you're like, bro, it ain't the hair.
I know. And you're kind of sitting here going, I really hope they enjoy this, because otherwise they could say, man, worst haircut experience ever. And it's like, why? What? And I'm very blessed we have not had any of those situations. And as a business owner, I'm very, owner operator, I'll say, I'm very, very diligent about making sure I'm present and able to assist with any uncomfortable customer situations. I think the extent that we have is maybe a guy asked for something and we're providing it, but it's not quite what they want. So they're a little nervous about how it's turning out, and alleviating that with, good energy, positive energy, and making sure they're happy when they leave. And any management I would hire in the near future, I'd hope would have the same vibe. That helps us navigate those review situations.
Yeah. The Google and Yelp, it kind of reminds me of like the customer now has the ability to leave a review, which can make you a lot more money.
Yeah.
Like as you're experiencing with Google. But they could also leave a negative review. What it reminds me of is kind of like social media.
Yeah.
So people always like complain about like burnout on social media. You got to post all the time, blah, blah, blah. But if you're like, let's say you're Instagram or Twitter, who are you going to promote? The guy that doesn't use your service at all, or the guy that uses all the time?
Exactly.
It's just like, what would you do in their position?
Well, I think that there's a little bit of a double-edged sword there, because who would they want to promote? The guy that uses their service really well, or the guy that uses their service poorly all the time?
Fair.
So it's a weird thing to navigate, because bad advertising content all throughout your feed is gross to a lot of people. I'll turn off Instagram instantly, but a lot of well-curated images, that might keep me on Instagram a lot longer. Because their goal is eyeballs, right? Yeah. So I think to your point, they definitely want more content. They want people providing more content, but at a certain level. That's why their algorithm's so specific on how many, breaking through those little tiers of viewership.
So let's skip this section and go straight to social media.
Yeah.
You mentioned before, and I've been dying to ask you this now, you were like, Instagram. Talk to me about Instagram, barbering, important, not important, awesome, bad?
I think Instagram, it's really great, but it's a portfolio tool. It's something to get you exposure in terms of your work. But I've found in my experience with the barber world, not the clothing world. The clothing world's a lot different from a social media standpoint. But from a barbering world, it's a referral business. I want to make sure, I think social media is a younger demographic of people that would maybe DM a barbershop to say, hey, can I get a haircut? That's not going to be your, maybe some young professionals might do that, but generally speaking, your mid to late, really more late 20s to late 30s is probably my core demographic. Those guys are not, they'll see a great haircut and then they'll go to the website. You know what I mean? But they're not as inclined to pick someone off of social media. Women, a lot different. Women with the salon world, they'll find a stylist, see highlights or a balayage that they love, and that's their girl. I want you to do my hair. I've found that's huge. But for barbers, social media is a great tool to where if I'm out at a bar and I meet you, follow me on Instagram. I work at Sorek. I'd love to cut your hair. That relationship there turns into a customer experience. A great customer experience turns into that guy telling all of his friends who are obviously going to be at least in a similar demographic, yo, you got to go check out Sorek. Dean did a wonderful job. That's where we get the most growth. And that growth is so strong from a foundation standpoint that you can rely on it, and your retention is huge. Whereas social media, you're less likely to get as specific with your demographics as you would with referrals. Obviously, referrals is a hustle, but it's very, very
well. Like when I saw Sorek, I kind of clicked on the I clicked on the Google listing.
Yeah,
and it has some pictures and stuff. And then I saw that the website has like an Instagram. I checked it out, and like I don't know what I was trying to get from it, but I'm just like, it's a real place.
Yeah.
And they seem to have some relatively updated Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, I don't really care what all the stuff on it is.
It's a credibility tool, right?
Yeah. It's like someone's alive.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's something there.
Whereas if you went on and I hadn't posted in 3 months,
I'd be a little skeptical.
Yeah. What's going on there?
Yeah. Like, I just need something happening. Okay. So that's kind of interesting because I noticed there's a large barber contingent on Instagram.
Huge.
Not on Twitter so much, but mainly like Instagram.
No, Instagram. It's a funny. It's kind of like ASMR content. It's a funny sort of. People love watching people get their hair cut.
Yeah, they do crazy stuff like they'll like wax their whole face. And
Which
like,
is, that's so
it's just like over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, it keeps popping up in my feed, so I keep clicking on it.
Well,
so.
yeah. It's definitely crazy to watch. I wouldn't recommend getting your face waxed.
Oh, no. How often do you have like a schedule that you post on? Mainly Instagram, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there like a schedule like you tell someone like you got to post like once a day, once a month?
For us, it's once a day right now. But that's a lot of, coming out of the pandemic, skeleton crew. Now that we're staffing more, we'll have a lot more time to get more content posted. I'd say twice a day would be great, sort of a morning post and then a primetime post. That way you're getting a little bit more exposure.
And when you post, like, it's hard to track, but does it put like butts in seats? Like, does it get people to the store?
Yes, from the standpoint of existing customers that follow us get reminded. I've posted stories and have had 3 clients book. Because they go, oh shit, I do need to get my hair cut. Right? But new customers, I don't think you have the reach unless it's paid. And that's where it's a little bit more, it's a whole new world, right? Your world. And I'd say from a relationship standpoint with your customers, it's great. And that's, I guess, a point we haven't really made is social media is a great way to stay in touch.
Ooh, that's a quote right there.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's a great way to stay in touch with your customer base, all that. I think that it's a wonderful way for you to be able to maintain that relationship, in a pretty intimate way. I mean, you're seeing their posts, they're seeing yours as a business.
You can message each other. Yeah. Interesting. So let's talk about in general, like not necessarily social media, but like marketing a local business. Like, so when you set up, like, how do you get the word out? What I mean, I guess you could put signs on the street. I guess you can make Instagram posts, but like, how do you get the word out for
You'd be
a
amazed.
physical business?
Signs on the street do work. I mean, it's funny. We had, when Sorek was being built out, we had a bunch of window vinyl over the storefront. It was huge.
Like,
a lot of people saw that.
What does it say?
It just said Sorek Barbershop and Menswear, with our logos like huge. Like, you've seen our windows. They're like 11 feet tall or something. They were massive. I mean, really big. And people drove by a bunch. And then as we took it down, we had so many people coming in going, I was wondering when this was going to open. Well, thank God.
Well, okay. So signs are near and dear to my heart because a long time ago, about a couple years ago, we did this shoe hospital sign. So I used to live downtown, and I would walk by the shoe hospital, and it always like made me laugh. I was like, shoe hospital.
Are you thinking about in Houston or in Austin?
No, in Austin. But there's 17. There's one guy owns them. All.
Okay, yeah.
In Austin, Houston, San Antonio, or something like that.
That's cool.
And so I'd walk by the shoe hospital every day, and one day I was just like, what the hell do they do? Like, I don't know what I was thinking in my head. Yeah. And I walked in, and I go, hey, what does a shoe hospital do? He's like, a shoe hospital, and he looked at me like I was an idiot. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm not like, you clean shoes, like, so I think
shoes, resale.
And he told me to come in the back. So I guess there's a franchisee. So there's a franchisee owner. So come in the back, and he was working on a pair of men's loafers and like black, and one was like really crappy and scuffed up. And I was like, that's what all my shoes look like. And then he showed me a brand new one, and I was like, oh, that looks like a new shoe. He's like, yeah, that's what we do, shoe hospital.
That's awesome.
I was like, why don't you just show me that? And so I offered to make them a sign because they had all these signs in front of the A-frame sandwich boards. And those signs said half price heels Saturday. And then one said like shoe hospital or something like very generic. And I was like, I'm not getting it. Like what's, I was like, what if you just show me like a bad shoe and a good shoe? Like even that, no text.
Exactly.
I'd be like, gotcha. Right. Yeah. And then he showed me like bad cowboy boots and then they stain and dye them a different color. And they're awesome. And you're like, show me that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I will make these signs for you. So I went and photoshopped them that night, got them made at Kinko's. It cost $165. Yeah. They 50%, basically almost doubled their walk-in rate from 8 walk-ins a day to 16. And their average order value is like way over $50.
Yeah.
50 to $200 bucks. And it worked so well. The owner of the entire franchise was just like, I don't want to publish this experiment. I was like, that was the whole point. I told you this in the beginning. I paid for everything. Right?
Yeah.
It worked so well. He didn't want to say it. So with that story, have you ever tried out different signs or anything like that?
We haven't. We're going to into the winter. That's really like coming out of the
Dude, can I do it?
Yeah.
I just want to do it for fun.
Yeah,
like I'll do it for you.
Let's do it. Let's do some fun. So I actually worked in the branding space with my friend's company, Foxmark. We did like brand imaging, signage. We manufactured all of it. So, you think about Kinko's. We were Kinko's, but on steroids. We did everything for the Rockets Stadium, the Astros, we did Serta Simmons. So I'm very like that space is very near and dear to my heart too, because you start recognizing the value of even something like a car wrap. People look at it and they think it's so cheesy, but you're seeing it everywhere. You'll see that car and you're like, oh, I don't know if you ever saw the meme Shred It. It's a company that shreds paper.
Oh.
And there's a video of a guy going, shred it, because he thought it was funny because he'd see all the shred it trucks everywhere and he's making this meme. That went viral, and now shred it. You always see this shred it truck and you think about that and you resonate with it. But then at the same time, we're all like, everyone jokes about small business owners like, oh, you're going to put your face on the side of the car, that sort of thing. Bitch, I might,
It works. It works. It's like a realtor or something like that. Herbalife does that all the time.
You know what I mean? Like, watch me.
Oh, 1-800-GOT-JUNK?
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
All of those.
Yeah.
So I think that signage is great. What's funny is demographics, man. Or whether it's your location, it's just knowing where you're opening is so crucial. And obviously, if I'm B2B, that's a little different because I'm marketing in a different capacity. I'm not needing the foot traffic because I'm calling on customers. I'm, using LinkedIn. I'm using all those tools. But from a personal services standpoint, retail standpoint, if you're able to get in a great area, I mean, that's the real proposition, right? Like if where Sorek is today, it's turnkey. I open the store, and the amount of walking traffic we get, all of that is huge. So that that's the foundation in my mind from, anyone starting from zero is like really understand your demographics and where you're opening. And that's 80% of the battle.
So as the owner, like before you scouted the location, so you're in like a kind of like a high-end like boutique hotel building, right?
Yeah.
Like at the bottom and on East 6th Street, which is like, the famous like road in Austin.
Yeah.
So is there like a number or a formula you use? Like there's like 500 people that walk by a day. Like we'll get this many.
It's really the demographic reports that you get in cities. They'll show a radius and it'll show like your GDP, like of that area, like how much money every household's making on average. And this area, it's funny. This area was totally off because this is the amount of growth we've had, right? So I had to spend a lot of time in this part of town. And thankfully, I lived here for a year, 4 years ago. So I knew where the growth was happening. I knew what was going on. But if you looked at the demographic report 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you'd be like, oh, the average household income here is 60 grand? Not anymore.
If you knew how much the house next door sold for.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, but it's a lot of that is a delayed fuse, right? So as long as you can keep your ear to the ground and put in your due diligence, that's key. There's so many people that just will look at a report like that, which is valuable, but you need to look at the report and then you need to spend a week in that part of town going to coffee shops, going and eating dinner, going to stores or shoe hospitals or whatever, and get a vibe for it. See what's going on.
So you're doing like kind of on the ground work to figure out where to put the location first.
Yeah.
And like I heard a story about how Whole Foods does it, and they basically look at the amount of college degrees in the area or something like that. That's what I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, there's all sorts of you can be very specific with what works best for your business type. For me, we're a men's brand. I need to make sure there's a lot of
dudes
guys
that have disposable income.
Yeah. I need to make sure there's a lot of guys that are younger. So really, like renters are more my space than like a bunch of like if I moved to Lakeway. because a lot of those guys are already established in their careers. They're not trying to impress as many people. They might be married already, which means they really are not trying to impress anyone. So it's funny because a lot of people would think, oh, I want to buy all the $1 million houses. It's like, yeah, but no. A lot of those guys, they might have personal shoppers who are not really, they just go straight to Neiman's.
Interesting.
So it's that specificity is important from a marketing standpoint. Now, once you've opened, then it's relationships, man. I work with a lot of charities. I stay involved with the community. That's my bread and butter. When it comes to digital marketing, your space, I'm pretty green, to be honest, but building community and building relationships is what I've always been keen on, and thankfully I've been very successful at. So,
well, if it makes you feel any better, what I've always noticed is like for an offline business, offline marketing works really well. For an online business, online works very well.
Exactly. Yeah.
We actually rented a billboard this is another experiment we did. We rented a billboard on Cesar Chavez.
Yeah.
And to see what would happen. I was just curious. I wanted to learn how to make a billboard, and I couldn't really find much about it online, which was shocking. So we're just like, let's make a billboard and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. It's very difficult to get like the offline to translate. But if there was a billboard, there's no billboards on 6th Street, but like
no,
there's a couple.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah. But like if you said like Sorek and then an down arrow, Or we were consulting for like a medical group, and they had a freestanding emergency ER.
Yeah.
And we made a billboard, and it was very unclever, and it just said like emergency room, no wait, or something like that. Like it was really simple, and we bought the billboard next door to it and had an arrow. And that totally worked.
That's awesome.
So for like offline to offline, it seems to work really well. The online to offline, there's a bit of a jump.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess like online is like the Google listing.
Yeah.
Like, so you're already doing that. So you're probably maxing out your online.
And to circle back to what I said earlier, it's also that right now mentality, right? So online marketing, if it's not a quick conversion of click the link and it calls, I'm finding that we get less conversion off of that. For us, it's like, for example, the online booking tool. I'd love for everyone to use it all the time, but when you're on the Google listing and it's as easy as clicking our phone number, that's a lot faster. And I think similarly with the billboard saying, hey, it's right here. Think about it. You can go right now. I think that's where people's heads are at.
Cool. And then when it comes to like starting a physical business, obviously with like online, like you pull up a Shopify store, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
In person, it sounds like a lot more of a pain in the ass, or because you have to have a storefront and there's construction costs involved. And I'm assuming you're spending a ton of money before you cut a head of hair.
Oh, definitely.
How long does it take to get from like conception of this idea to like cutting your first client's hair or selling your first?
If I was to say, like package it as though I'm doing a franchise, I'd say there's a good year and a half.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, from starting a brand, right? Mm-hmm. And that's permitting. That's like everything, right? So if I was starting a barbershop, I would want to spend at least that includes like I'm working a job right now, thinking about it, going to start it, building out the branding, doing all this stuff. Now, if I'm boots on the ground, like hustling, I've already been through it, right? That's another huge differentiator between me and somebody who's very green, hasn't opened a business yet, is I've done it already. Mm-hmm. That means I could cut that down to 6 months, but that's build out time. This space, Austin's permitting took 2 months, 3 months.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so you're sitting on your hands, going, okay, motherfuckers.
Damn, that's longer than I expected you to say.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're pouring money into it, and you probably got some other people working with you, and you got to pay them. And
yeah. So it's branding teams, like all that stuff, because you think about all the facets, R&D on product, like getting everything ready takes a while, man, because we're a full clothing brand. All of our patterns are ours. There's so much of what's in Sorek and what we do that is like, it's cool because we own it. If I was just wholesaling, 6 months, 4 months.
Do you get like nervous as hell that just no one shows up? Like when it opens?
Dude, it's a funny thing because I find that due diligence is one of the keys to life, right? If you put in your time, a lot of that anxiety goes away. Because for me, I always joke with my brother. I'm like, I'm the kind of guy that I can't afford a Ferrari right now, but if I bought one, I could. Like, I'm going to figure it out. Like, I've always been that kind of guy. I've always been that kind of guy. So for me, when the business is opening and I'm facing these, you know, hills to climb, that's my element. Like once I'm facing adversity or I have something that engages me, I'm there. It's this, a funny parallel is like when I wake up in the morning, if I've got something I need to wake up for, I'm up. Like I'm awake, I'm ready to go. There's nothing going on the next day. I could sleep until 11, you know, but it's like, for me, the anxiety side of it wasn't really there. It was more of like an engagement. It was like, I've got something to really bite into and hustle on. So the anxiety was never really there.
Huh. Interesting.
Now, when you hire people, that's where a bit of anxiety comes in because you're like, okay, I want these people to make money. So like, where are their customers? You know, like that's when you start doing marketing spin and you're like, you're wanting to make sure they're having a great experience working with Sorek. And that's just me being empathetic. You know, I hate the idea of somebody starting and not making a great living and not getting, you know, building the career that they want and those sort of things. So that's where I have a bit of anxiety where I'm like, man, this guy's only had, you know, 4 clients today. How do I get him more clients?
So and then so like having a storefront and stuff, like you got a space, which is kind of cool. And like you meet people. Are there a lot of downsides or not a lot of downsides or?
Yeah, in the sense that the downside would be control. Like it's not like I have a gatekeeper. So a lot of times we'll get some crazies that come in the store and that's not fun.
Just random weirdos walking in.
Random weirdos, people just, you know, maybe cracked out or something and you're just thinking to yourself like, really, man? Like, you know, and that's miserable. But I think that going back to that chicken before the egg conversation, it's been fun seeing how our experience being unique to the barber space, how it's kind of created a whole new model of personal services that are creating conversion into retail. It's really cool seeing that. And it really alleviates a lot of your anxiety because you're like, if I was just a clothing store, now you've got to get customers. Like it's like a cult. You want to build this like commitment to your brand and, I love this brand and I'm going to drive over to buy clothes from this brand. Whereas with barbering, it's like, I need a haircut today.
Yeah. That's a really cool, that was so interesting about it. I was just like, wow, like you kind of have to come back all the time. And I was just like, you know, if I go to this guy like 15 times, I might buy something.
Yeah.
I might buy something eventually.
Well, and that's where we're able to tune it to make sure our customers have products that they enjoy. And what's cool is having that experience. But then once we get into the online space, that's a whole other customer to make happy. But we've already kind of done our case study. You know?
Very interesting. What about, have you seen other retails, like kind of combos like this, like barbershop plus something, barbershop plus anything?
Yeah, it's been, I'd say in the last 10 years, probably not even 10, I'd say the last probably 5 years, there's been a bunch more. Huge number of people recognizing, because there was that uptick, and it's so funny, but you know, Macklemore comes out with that haircut, and every guy wanted a fade.
Really?
Guy.
That
I was managing salons at the time.
That's hilarious.
And you'd get guys that would go to a barbershop to get a fade, but then they would go to our salon to get the top of their haircut because barbers didn't really understand scissor work yet. Now it's a whole different world. Now we're evolved. Now we understand, you know, barbers understand all, you know, lengths of hair, textures of hair, etc. But that happens. And then all these salons that are losing their male clients go, shit, I need to open a luxury barbershop. Because that's what these guys want. They want the fade, but they want it in a salon, you know, vibe where you can have a cocktail, you can have, you know, all these different things. And as they opened them, they were thinking that, I'm going to pay a great commission. And then we make our, you know, that pays our commission that we receive from services, you know, our split to the business pays our overhead and a little bit more. And then, the retail product just like in the salon, that's what's going to be our margin, and it'll be great business. The problem is they were trying to create that parallel that didn't exist. Men's hair product, as I mentioned earlier, costs way too little, and it lasts 6 months.
$12 and I use it for a year and a half.
Yeah. So they started finding this out quickly, and they're going, shit, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? That's where you have like barbershop, coffee shop. You've got all sorts, dude, all sorts of stuff.
But does that work?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as long as you're focused on a high level of service, and you're good with people and staffing and building a great community with your customers and within your shop. How can't it?
But see, the thing I don't like about like barbershop, coffee shop is it's both local. Like your customer circle is within 20 square blocks at most.
Yeah.
There's no one else coming from out of town for the most part.
Yeah.
Whereas with yours, it's like you could technically sell a suit to a guy in Dubai or something.
Yeah.
Huh. Have you seen any other services like that, like kind of like outside of clothing, or is it mainly just kind of like barbershop, coffee shop? Curious if there's any other combos that have where my parents live, there's like a barbershop car wash.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This car wash sorry, not where my parents live, in Austin, right here. There's like there's a place that has a big car wash, but they also have like this guy who like gives haircuts there.
That's so funny.
I was like, that's a interesting combo.
To my point, barbering is I consider it more of an experience where it's like, just like a car wash would want to have coffee or maybe beer, why not have a barber shop?
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you answering all these questions.
Yeah.
So we got a little lightning round. So we'll do like 1 minute timed questions, and we put these out as like YouTube shorts and stuff like that. So I'll time you to keep it on thing. So let's do this. This is really fun. Like learning about this stuff. It's like it feels like a whole new world for me. Let's go. So, all right. So how would you get 50 reviews for a new local store or barbershop?
Create empathy with the customer, make them understand how important it is to you. So I would say something, as I mentioned before, something like, hey, I'm so glad you came in today. I hope you had an amazing experience. If you wouldn't mind leaving a Google review, they're like gold for us right now. That value proposition where they understand they're doing you a favor.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. That was quick. All right. So would you rather start only a barbershop or only a clothing brand?
I'd say I would rather start only a clothing brand. I think that's an experience that it's fun being able to style clothing. The process of creating products is just as engaging as the sales process to the customer. And in my mind, barbering is always going to be something I do. So it's not, I think from a business standpoint, I would be much more stimulated by owning a clothing brand.
Nice. And then lastly, so how long does it take to get a barbershop launched and a full schedule booked?
Awesome. So just a barbershop, I would say full schedule booked, 6 months to a year. That's from starting the idea, opening it, building it, or starting an idea, building it, opening it, and getting fully booked. It's, like I said, it's been our 1 year, and that's where we're at. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Where can people find you? And
So Sorek, we're on Instagram at SorekTX. That's SorekTX. And then my personal Instagram's Gourd, like the squash, Jason. So Gourd, Jason.
Really? You got Instagram.com/Gourd?
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Well, that's my name is Jason Gourd. So.
Yeah, but it's just like an English word as that's pretty good. Yeah, nice.
Gourd Jason.
And then, so you can also go to Sorek.com, which dope domain name too.
Yeah.
You're on the name game here.
We
That's
got
awesome.
it, man. Yeah.
And the store is on East 6th Street in Austin, East Side, 1813 East 6th Street.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So check them out. I'll post some pictures and maybe some little B-roll and video of the place, just so people can get an idea what we're talking about.
It's super fun.
Awesome. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Of course, man.
Take care.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Neville here. And I'd love to explain 4 reasons getting on our email list can benefit your life. Number 1, every Friday we send out the stupid email, which is a swipe, thought, uplifting, picture, interesting, and drawing. People regularly say this is their most look forward to email they get all week. Number 2, we spend a lot of time and money filming great interviews about content marketing, copywriting, communications, growing a business, and just figuring out more about how the world works. For example, we've interviewed the CEOs of AppSumo, Udemy, The Hustle, and many more. There's so many golden nugget lessons we learn from each of them, and I hope you get in on this too. Number 3, a single idea can possibly change the trajectory of your life. Just one thing you learn or pick up from these emails can potentially have a gigantic impact on you. And number 4, we cover topics on how to grow a small business from just a side project to becoming something that's a full-time career. And bonus number 5, you can unsubscribe at any time. One click, poof, I am out of your life forever. Losing a subscriber is painful, so I've tried to make sure my email list is full of useful information to business owners and people trying to improve their copy and communication skills. So go to copywritingcourse.com and enter your email. We'll handle the rest. Thank you.